Alright, now, as we're all aware, it is story time. And seeing as how I do this at least once a week, and I have 2 series going at the same time now, we'll see how this goes. And we're returning back to the Bunny Man. So this is part 2 to that. If you haven't seen the first one, go ahead. If you haven't watched the rest of my stories that I've already done prior, feel free to do so. Pretty good on their own. One day, my rabbits acted the same way that they always did. Not necessarily how they act when they're on their own. More like when I have family over. And they started disappearing one after the other. I'm not entirely sure what happens. There's usually like this, can't really trust your own eyes because there's that flash of light right out of the corner of your eyes, and that kept happening. And I was doing cases like I usually do. On that particular day when things started accelerating, it was a little girl on a birthday party. Apparently, she started throwing up this black ink stuff. And prior to that, during the investigation and during the subsequent questioning of the family, there seemed to have been something off about the child as of late. Like, the child herself was talking more than usual. She was like 3 years old. She was talking like she was talking to like a large conglomeration of things rather than to like a person like she usually does. And seeing as how I have my own abilities as an exorcist, don't really talk about them, exactly what they are or exactly what my abilities do. It's more like I can see somebody, and I don't necessarily mean it like I just see the person. I see everything the person has done up to a certain point. So this conglomeration, this massive energy that she was talking to, I guess you could call it a being. I mean, usually when it has an intelligence, we call it a being. Or at least I do. Yeah, she was talking to it. And one of its many heads was a rabbit head. That drew my curiosity not only to the case, but also to my rabbits afterwards. Which is why it's so strange to say that my own connection to, and thus my subsequent understanding of my rabbits and my desire to understand what it is my rabbits even do, or why they happen to be able to exist around myself and the rest of my cursed family. Why the rabbit seems so familiar. Okay, so a little side note to this. There's this rabbit. This is a very specific rabbit. I don't know why. Sometimes when I get animals, especially when the rabbits do what they do, I usually already have a name for them. Like a clear voice will just speak the name of this specific rabbit. And this specific rabbit's name is Luciferian. Or Lucifero. Yeah, Lucifero. Lucifero, as a rabbit, is a very interesting rabbit. It's got like dark reddish ears, more like up towards the tips, and kind of like a ring. Black, And its like fur is mainly black, and it has like these deep red eyes. I always look these kind of things up because I always want to know if there's a rabbit species that looks like that. And of course, I should know this as like my line of work and all of that, that sometimes things are a little harder to wrap your head around. Oh. Yeah, don't mind me. Just it's been hard with these rabbits, like they've been around for a very long time, and they're like the only thing that I could really pet and get comfort with when it comes to having a life beyond exorcism. It's no, anyway. The rabbits. So yeah, Luciferio. Luciferio, he himself is like a great great grandfather in the lineage of all the rabbits that I've had. And of course, he's a unique species. His own fur coloring isn't known to appear in the wild or even as like a subdivision of whatever when it comes to breeding and all of that. But it was a lot of work. Put in a lot of work to understand this curse and also these rabbits. These rabbits are especially hard on me as they're kind of like family. And the same kind of relationship you would have with small animals, they're kind of like your favorite, and it's really hard to lose them. Yeah, really hard to lose them. So one of these heads looks like Luciferio. And Luciferio, after that exorcism, after finding out everything there was about this child and awakening the work that the child was going to do anyway before being sidelined by these distractions, these entities that wanted to show and tell their own story, arrived in our life. Um, there was like this bright flash. It's almost like that exorcism kind of exorcised more than just the little girl. And I've had a few cases in which something followed me home after an exorcism, or something that was following me from a previous exorcism, or even in my everyday life, followed me directly into another case, which then released the thing that came from the other case, or from like that day, or that morning, or that night, that year, that month. But these rabbits. It was like losing family, like losing kids. Because after seeing the conglomeration, after the child exorcism, after I had been done with that, after that has been solved, came home. Do what I usually do to, wind down. Get things sorted out. Average stuff. Wash some clothes. Clean up the rabbit pen if I need to. And then I noticed that some of them were missing. And it didn't start with the younger ones, it started with the older ones. It just wouldn't move. It was like... I hate to put emotions towards faces that animals make, because I see it as just making things worse, but it was almost like pleading. Like something about their eyes just... Something about their eyes was like they were begging for help. And I just couldn't help them because I didn't know what was going on. I still don't know what's going on. And that's a first. It really is. I haven't lost a rabbit. Ever. Every time they come home, every time I take care of them, they're always here. Like, I come home to them, clean up after them. And now they're just disappearing one after the other, and I don't know what to do. It's really disheartening, I cared for every last one of those rabbits, and I knew them by name, which... Out of a total of 51 rabbits, there's only 12 left. Like, I have a backyard, and the entire purpose for it is pretty much raising those rabbits. I have somebody who comes over when it gets really late, to make sure that they come in, so they're not out there freezing or anything, because some of them weren't born with really long hair. Some of them have like short hair rabbits, so they're not necessarily built for the kind of cold that's around here. There's so much I want to say to them. It's really hard because it's like a bunny man exorcist that talks to rabbits. Yeah. If I had the opportunity to, I'd talk to every last one of them and at least say goodbye. I really should have been here, for them. but I really couldn't. And the weird thing is that I can't even picture in my mind a bird coming down and taking them, a wolf coming and taking them, any wild animal coming across these rabbits and eating them, because there's no evidence of that at all. Like, I've searched the entire yard to see if there's like tufts of fur or anything that could have possibly gone wrong. And now that I just have 12, I just leave them in the living room, because the moment they come in from the outside, they go into my living room, and there's another pen there for them to keep them from wandering around and biting cords and stuff. If I have electronics, they're all up and away from biting range, because, you know, even though they're not prone to accidents or even having some natural catastrophe happen to them because of my curse, I would rather not give them the option. So even the person who comes here and talks to them and brings them inside, so that they don't know what happened. Like, they look around the yard and there's no holes or any way for anything to get in. And I built up like a giant pen too, like one of the enclosure ones, so that wild animals can't just get in there and get the rabbits while I'm away. And there's nothing. And it's infuriating to just sit here and not know what happened to my rabbits. And the reason why I'm talking about this, and the reason why there was just no time to really grieve these rabbits, was because 5 and 10 would just 15 would disappear in a day, and like back-to-back days. Like, the moment I take my eyes off these rabbits and I get this flash, they're just gone. And they're gone in a big way, not just in a small way. There's just a hole left where these rabbits used to be. And that's not just because there's a pen with rabbits in it. I gotta get to the bottom of this curse. And to the bottom of why my rabbits are disappearing. Or both. There's a case out there where I could solve both of these things at the same time. I'll take it. I'll take it. Because it's not only that I lose those rabbits, it's also that they're watching me. Like, they watch me when my family's around. Lucifero hasn't moved or eaten anything in a long time. He's the only rabbit that isn't gone, but he's also the oldest rabbit. Something about the way he watches me now. Really don't know what to make of it.